that's what the Tour organisers were hoping Barcelona would look like when they drew up the Tour route last October. And this is what they've got. Somewhere behind this wall of grey rain that's been falling for the past few hours are the classic views of the city from the top of Montjuic that most of us think of as the classic backdrop to the 1992 Olympic Games. In fact, the Tour de France has been coming up here since long before the Games were ever thought about. Long enough, in fact, that it was in black and white the last time the race came here. That was 1965 when Felice Gimondi won the race, and the stage was won by a brilliant solo breakaway of 223 kilometres by the Spanish rider Jose Perez. Now, I don't think we're going to see anything like that today, but I think we are going to see yet another split in the field as the race comes up this last climb to Montjuic, especially in these conditions. And here's what the riders have to do to get here. It's 181.5 kilometres today, setting out from Girona, where a lot of the riders base themselves. So this is a route that's going to be familiar to quite a few of the peloton. There are 5 climbs along the way, another long stretch of exposed road. This tour has already seen more coastline than it normally gets over 3 weeks. And in addition to the categorised climbs, the last one after the race has swept through the centre of Barcelona and reached Montjuic to take them to the finish. David Miller got in the day's break, then broke away from that and soloed through the boulevards of the Catalan capital towards the finish with the bunch screaming after him.
There is David Miller in sight of 10 kilometres to go as he drives a course dead centre down the road to a corridor of people here who will no doubt be shouting his name as well. Terrific crowds as the Tour de France races to Barcelona, the furthest south it's ever been in Spain.
Well, it's inside of 10 kilometres to go now for David Miller, and it's almost a minute and 5 seconds. A little bit of urgency you can see at the front end of the pack. The Catalan flags are very high in the sky. The sun is starting to peek through, but it's not going to dry the roads here in the heart of Barcelona. But there's a crash at the back.
And that is the Japanese rider who's gone down there nearest camera, which is rather south of B-box, because that's Yukika Alishiro. And there, oh my goodness me. Well, this is going to disrupt the chase, I think, now. It was on a left-hand bend on the white line.
Well, that was because of the white line once again. That crash happened.
Rabobank involved, Paul.
Rabobank are not having their best Tour de France this year. That was Yukiya Arashiro there from B-Box Boy Telecom, who's gone down pretty nastily. Dr. Port in the white shirt there is coming along to check on everybody, but that will probably disrupt the chase a fraction.
Well, this is Lawrence Ten Dam, who's straightening the mess out. Now, that's happened outside the rules at 3 kilometres to go, so those riders will lose time for that crash as the mechanics get on the job in hand. The rider at the front just continued to drive here. Now, has this disrupted the chase? It doesn't look like it at the moment.
There is the Arc de Triomphe that Barcelona has just in the right-hand side there, but Miller goes charging by it, hoping that this is going to be an arch of triumph for him as well. But he's still got to face up to that very difficult 2-kilometre ascent up to the end, and he's certainly not weakening as a rider, Phil. It's up to them. Another crash has gone down.
Goodness gracious me, Cofidis are now piling up as the Euskaltel rider is also.
Bonen is on the ground there, Phil, right in the middle, the champion of Belgium.
Yep, and his Bonen sat in. There's a little replay. Well, we lost a little bit, but that's Bonen who's gone down. He was a candidate for victory today, and he really has seen the wrong side of the Tour de France this year. It's been a rough ride for him. He won the green jersey last time he was in this race. Hasn't scored a single point this year because he's never been in at the kill.
Well, Bonen is hurt, but he's not going to be out. He's going to get up there. He's going to wait for the mechanics to come up alongside him, and he's going to ride himself down towards the finish line. This has been a dramatic ride into Barcelona. Let's have a look at that one more time. It was Bonen who went down first, and again, it was on those white strips across the road, extremely slippery in conditions like this.
Generous applause there from the Spanish crowd for the Belgian champion as he tries to refine himself here. I think he's hurt himself.
The main field are still charging behind David Miller. He hasn't even looked back once, Phil. He knows that he dare not look back. He just needs to keep concentrated on the job in hand. Every now and again he puts his head down. That's to try and make him feel a little bit more aerodynamic, to make sure that he keeps the pressure nice and high. Mark Cavendish is still in there with a chance because he's sitting in the middle of that group in around about 15th place.
As we pull back, there looks to be about maybe 60, 70 riders in this group here, but nobody else in the camera lens as we swung back to the front here. Quick Step still working. They don't know they've lost their big man in Tom Bonen possibly. Rabobank are on the front now as they try to deliver Oscar Freire into the final couple of kilometres. 20 seconds out of the saddle is David Miller. 2.2 kilometres. We're about to start the climb.
I noticed Pipo Pozzato from Team Katusha was one of the riders who hadn't been involved in a crash. He was riding very close to the front end of the main field as well, just looking round the corners. Here is the big wide boulevard, and once he turns off this boulevard to the right-hand side, that is when the climb up to the finish field begins.
This is Barcelona showing you its best face now, apart from the weather. This is a beautiful city, empty for the Tour de France of traffic, and it's full of people here cheering a Scottish rider, David Miller. It's a right turn, then the climb starts. They're down there, the only men that can beat Miller. Everybody else is out of it.
Well, there's not many men in that group who can beat Miller. He takes a wide berth around that corner, and then he's going to start to get out of the saddle and feel the pain starting to dig in deep for the final time, because he's on the final ascent up to the finish. It's not very much at all. It's down to just 8 seconds with 1.6 kilometers to go, and there's still a lot of dedicated sprinters still in that group who want their men to pull this man back into the fold.
He's relying heavily now on the psychological factor. Who will make the move that will finish him off? Will they hesitate? Just a couple of seconds is all they need. Kurt Attel Arvesen, the champion of Norway, trying to lead. In fact, the race leader in yellow, Fabian Cancellara. It's a strong man's finish here, and there's an awful lot of strong men just on the sharp end right now.
Gerard Cholik moving up into second position. There is David Miller, and he's about to get pulled back into the fold within 1.2 kilometers to go to the finish. It's Jaroslav Popovic taking over control at the front end of the main field. This is going to be a strong man's finish.
It has become a battle of strong men in the end. 26 kilometers of desperation from Miller here. I saw Tony Martin right centre there, centre right at the moment, as now everybody will believe they can make it. But Astana have got a lot of riders there. Now remember that Lance Armstrong and Fabian Cancellara are equal on time. Because it's an uphill finish, there could be a separate time here. They've got to mark each other.
They're inside of the final kilometre. Tony Martin's doing the turn at the front end for his men, and he may well be trying to set something up for Kim Kirken, because this is the kind of finish that could suit Kim Kirken. I'm looking for the green jersey of Mark Cavendish. It's a long way down there, Phil. I'm not sure that it's going to be a Cavendish win this afternoon. Oscar Freire is up there into third position. He's looking very good. Not too far away in fifth position is Gerard Cholik, and Thor Hushovd is also hovering in there in fourth.
This is going to be a huge lead out here by Tony May, because he's the man driving at the front, with Inigo Cuesta gritting his teeth in the background there. As Kees de Paan tried to get on the action, so too do the Liquigas riders. Cholik is there, and Oscar Freire is poised. The rider in the orange jersey, the 3-time world champion, he's Spanish, and Cadel Evans also trying to break in on the action. And there looks like Roman Ferrier is having a dig on the right. Is he going to steal it on the line?
Well, there you can see Oscar Freire looking over his shoulder. You can see the big face of Thor Hushovd. They're waiting for the final moment to kick, but it looks as if Ferrier went just a little bit too early there, Phil.
And there's a move on the far right of the road here, and I don't know if Freire is going to come out of third wheel and take it. Even Cadel Evans is trying to make something here. Now Freire goes, and it is Thor Hushovd who's going to challenge him for the line. Freire himself is Spanish. Hushovd, though, is the strong man, and it's Thor Hushovd who gets it. Oscar Freire will be in second place, and that was an incredible finish by a bunch of strong men. But take your hat off to David Miller. He's the most aggressive rider of the day, and what a great ride.
Well, it looks like it was a big lead out there, Phil, from Pipo Pozzato over on the left-hand side. The Italian national champion Freire started to go, but his legs died here as Thor Hushovd comes straight over the top there to prove once again why they call him the God of Thunder. He gets the victory here this afternoon for Cervelo Test Team on a finish which absolutely suited him.
Brute strength, more than blazing speed from Thor Hushovd was enough to take the stage. From a pair of Spaniards racing for the home win, Oscar Freire and Jose Rojas were second and third, ahead of Gerald Cholik, Franco Pelizzotti, Filippo Pozzato, Alessandro Ballan and Rinaldo Nocentini. Cadel Evans rode strongly at the end today, making sure he wasn't going to be on the wrong side of any split. Mark Cavendish was 16th sprinting for green jersey points, and most of the big names were in the main bunch on the same time as the winner. Sadly, David Miller was left behind on the fast run-in and ended up losing a minute 21 on the stage he came so close to winning.
Right, about 10 kilometres out, we're jumping up and down thinking you've done it. Are you thinking the same inside or not?
I was actually, but then when I started seeing those huge big boulevards that were just kind of dead straight for like 4 kilometres, and that was where I knew I didn't have the advantage from the peloton, because I mean when the roads are that large and that long straight, they have time to reorganise and kind of get the chase going well. So I knew that any advantage I had gained kind of from being on my own through the wet corners and stuff was going to be lost there. But I mean, I kept trying, and it was only like I just started to die in those last couple of Ks, which was kind of normal. But I had to give everything.
And what about the final climb? Was that in the back of your mind always, that would be a problem as well, or not?
I figured I'd get there and then deal with that one. Yeah, it was a case of I'll just deal with that when I get there. But when I looked behind, because I tried to avoid looking around as much as I could, then when I did look around, I saw them, and it was just, I knew there was just not a hope. So, I mean, that was only 1.2 Ks to go. And it was just, it's amazing psychologically. You look around, you see them, and it just goes brrr, like your batteries, somebody disconnects, pulls out the plug, and that's what happened.
Now, with today's win, plus his all-round consistency, Thor Hushovd is emerging as Mark Cavendish's biggest rival for the green jersey. And he knows how to last the course, having won it in 2005. Fabian Cancellara's big goal was to keep the yellow jersey at least this far, and he's done it with a fair amount of panache. It'll probably go tomorrow, when he'll be riding more in the service of Andy Schleck. But as things stand, he still has it by no seconds from Lance Armstrong, with Alberto Contador third. The only change in the first page of the leaderboard is Aimar Zubeldia dropping out, Tony Martin moving up 1 to 7th, and Christian van der Velde, who we've hardly mentioned, now in 8th. Having gambled everything today, David Miller slips from 10th to 20th, 2:28 down now behind Andy Schleck. And although the favourites may have shuffled their positions slightly, their time gaps remain the same, with the exception of Denis Menchov, who lost another minute today. He's now 64th, nearly 5 minutes down. Mark Cavendish will wear the green jersey again tomorrow. His 16th place was enough to preserve his advantage over Thor Hushovd by a single point.